today.
It survived. The adjustment survived another day.
You never know.
I know. Oh my gosh, I know. Hmm.
Well, thanks for including me.
No, yeah, no. You're. I mean,
Thanks for
I'm
including me.
I think it's. I was thinking about sketching it. Just doing it solo, but I was like, there's no point. I mean, I don't know. You can even text Grace if she wants to come on. I could have made like a whole class announcement. It just kind of snowballed. I went to breakfast and I was like, there's this funky thing, I guess, that's going on. It was like Mars and Gemini or something. And supposedly, according to like the planetary alignments, that the last 2 days and today are going to be like, hugely fruitful for creatives and, like basically communication. It's like,
Really?
yeah, yeah. And I mean, my first 2 days, the Wednesday and the Thursday of that kind of like alignment, proved to be like, proved to be pretty exciting, but that was just because there were established classes already. And then Friday, today I'm like, well, I might as well take advantage of it. And I want to finish up the whole Van Gogh face. And I want to finish up this chair. And then, then tonight I have a birthday party for one of my friends. So we'll just crank all these things out and then have a clean slate at the end. That was the plan.
It's interesting what you just said, because as far as the alignment, I took care of something this morning, a communication that was very, very important that I had put off. And I feel so wonderful that that's now behind me.
Yeah, the weight lifted. So that's good.
True.
Yeah, so I think we're doing the right thing. What's that, Adele?
It's so true. I keep procrastinating things like that because I don't really want to do them. And then when I finally do them, I'm like, why didn't I do this weeks ago?
I know.
Back. I'm terrible.
Yeah. And we're so not alone. I mean, as you've just shared.
Anyway, so that'll be good to have that. And then they said that tomorrow should also be pretty great in terms of like kind of like the communication, but it might be so strong, like the forces might be so strong that you can overdo it. So you just have to be careful with sharing and communicating and possibly saying too much that you might offend someone. So I don't know. I don't know.
Have the duct tape nearby.
Exactly. Well, I think I might not. I mean, I have to work all day tomorrow, but I'm going to try to keep it low key. All right. So this is the re-entry into the re-entry. And so at least this time I don't have to go so fast. That I did the old John Nagy, where it's like, oh, we've got 2 more minutes. Better fit everything under the sun into it. So I think basically one of the last parts that I did leave it was when I filled in this whole background. I shaded the whole tone, and then I came in with my eraser and pulled out the light bars, and sketching in these diamonds I think is going to be really exciting. To try to get. I'm not even that oriented. I haven't gotten that literal of a fix, but like going in and shading the space in between and then really kind of carving in to make each one of those wicker diamonds thin. The eraser took out too much, and so we're going to almost have to crop down the light wicker with the dark, and I think that's going to be kind of an interesting process. I wrote down a couple of interesting ideas that and I don't know if it's necessarily, I think we should try to get the area around the chair, established in a general sense, and then we can kind of come back in and detail the chair. I think it's good to get the chair a nice once over, and I haven't done the umbrella, I haven't done the blouse, I haven't even really finished the proportions of the chair, but I mean, the chair is light up against the dark background in almost every case, in almost 360 degrees. I think you could even argue that this little, the foot of the chair, the back leg of the chair that pokes through underneath the blue, that is still light against the deep dark plum of the shadow. Even if you squint your eyes and it's the same value, it's definitely a different color. It is lighter. But in relationship to the kind of like the nice aspects of the rows that we set up yesterday, I'm thinking about the whole floor. And each zone is almost like another petal. So we have like the deepest plum shadow that's underneath the chair, and that's going to kind of make its own unique shape, and it is in fact a cast shadow. And then the floor is in I don't want to call it like abstract, but it almost is just like, the floor is different, not because of any light, I don't think. If I lift this up, do you think this part of the floor is light because of the sun?
I think it's a reflection from the window.
So you think it is the window reflection? Okay. Yeah, I mean you could be. So then there's like the shadow from the room, which would be this mid-tone plum. Then there's the shadow from the chair, which is the dark plum, and then there's like the general color of the floor, that's in that's in the light from the window. And I guess that would make sense because you have like a solid, almost like this rectangle here, and then you do have this angle that comes out, and I think the light part of the floor almost creates a shadow, like almost creates a triangle. So I don't know if it's the triangle that comes from the edge of the outcropping from the angled ceiling or the angled wall. I think there is probably a relationship there.
But that means there are two light sources.
Or it means it's a diffused light source. So I think the main light source is the window. And so the window is coming down and hitting the floor here. And then as the floor gets further away from the window, this is like the direct, this is the closest distance. As the room moves away from the window, it will get faded. Now, this part of the floor here, I think represents the part of the floor that's not getting direct light, either because of the table, or because of just the window being so high. The windows are up high, so if the light were to come down at a vector, it would jump over it would, obviously someone hit the table. And that's interesting too, because I'm looking at the back of the table here. I'm wondering if there may have been a little shadow on the very back edge of that table, from the wall, because the window, the light is up above. But I don't think so. I think the fabric diffuses the light enough that it's gonna like work its way in there. So Adele, explain what you mean where you think there may have been a second light source.
Well, the shadow under the chair looks like there's a light source that's coming from the right.
Like all the way over here, like all the way off screen.
Like maybe a lamp or something. Because if it's light from the window, then maybe
you would think it would go like this.
Yeah. Yes. Either go like that, or then the whole window, that light part of the floor would skew that way a lot more.
And I think that might be, that could be the case. And it's hard to tell, but I think also when we sketch it, we might be able to discover more. There could be a secondary light source. Like this could be in the corner of a room, and we have one come here and then one coming over here. But the main point that I'm like most excited about is that the arrangement of all of the types of floor tonalities all work really, really nicely. So this light makes like almost like this Edward Hopperian wedge. It's like a rectangle with a triangle attached to it. And this has a nice border, like this nice light plum border, both on the front of the dark plum and in the back of that plum. This makes a rectangular ridge. And then this makes like almost like this diamond shape. of the shadow itself. So just without even acknowledging what in fact the truth of the light source is, like the reality of the light source, the design of the three values, the light part of the floor, the mid-tone of the floor, and then the deep dark of the shadow from the chair, and then even deep dark shadow moments happening from the legs, it's all really nice. I guess that's what I'm saying. It's like dark, mid-tone, light. And they are, and there's all transitions coming out of here. And, we can build like, the little honeycomb tiles on the floor, kind of establishing ranges, various planes. They disappear. The honeycomb disappears in the shadow because it's so dark, and then it also disappears up here in the lights because they almost become too visible. So where the eye, is calibrated to see both values, is in this far side here, and then in a little bit in the midtone as well. So where they really become midtone, dark midtone versus light midtone, that's where we're able to see, that honeycomb, but it doesn't show up anywhere underneath this table, which is kind of interesting, and definitely not in the back. So it's needed to help us get a sense that there is what that material is on the floor as a tile, but it is very generalized. So that's kind of that should be kind of cool. I think just to like be able to sketch these shapes as beautiful shapes and beautiful tones, deliberately having dark, mid-tone, and light, getting into that mindset. The mid-tones and we'll do above the chair, but we do need the background for the chair, and it's going to be, I think, a little bit challenging because one of the things she does is separates the difference between the background in terms of color. So the background that's in the mid-level of the chair, it's more neutral. I mean, it's a gray, it's cooler. And then the background on the above the chair rail is yellow, and it has a little bit of a pattern on there. So there is a floorboard and a rail, and that'll be interesting. It goes, dark to light to dark, but the dark on the top is like a warm orange. She brings some of the color of the table into the chair rail, and watching these shadows in between the diamonds of the wicker is going to be really interesting too. I'm looking at some of the highlights. The lightest part of the chair here, where the chair is closest to the window, and then simultaneously kind of the darkest diamonds, the grayest part of the wall, the shadow's darkest on that wall in the same spot. So you can, the idea of simultaneous contrast in value. So the lighter the rail goes, the darker the background will be. And the darker the background will be, the lighter the wicker and the arm of the chair will be. And that's, and her figuring that out is kind of interesting. Not kind of interesting, really interesting. I mean, I think she really did invest a tremendous amount of time and energy into that chair, painting positively the wicker, diamonds, and then the space between, those yellow sticks, filling in those gaps. And she was just like, there's something that's interesting, like Degas talks about, and she definitely was. This painting is actually very Degas, in like in the pattern in the wall, how it's painted really solidly, almost very quickly, and then she hones in and she really focuses, really sinks her teeth into the area. So the general painting of the background and the floor, kind of like just the suggestions that exist in here, like the facility that you have for those suggestions, almost almost like trick the viewer into thinking the whole painting was painted without a lot of investment in detail. And this, and then simultaneously, this chair is, I mean, there are just really fine tuned brushwork and detailed brushwork, really thin brushes. So it's the play of broad brush strokes, which is the foundation here, off of the smaller, little linear brush strokes, is great. It's just there's a nice range of tonalities, of paint application. So anyway, it's this picture really does kind of have it all. Okay.
Question, Robert.
Yes.
Quick question. Do you think that because of all of the horizontal, vertical, and angular lines, the line work, straight line work, she did the seat cushion in the far right corner a little bit elevated so that it's not, it doesn't read to be completely flat on the bottom of the chair to me. Or maybe I'm not seeing that accurately.
I don't know. Let's get into it. I think I stopped yesterday. Oh no. I need my little pad. Where'd my little pad go? This might be too big. It's way too big. Oh, here it is.
Yeah, I'm going to turn the volume up and back in a flash.
Okay, great. Is this where I left off yesterday, Adele? Can you remember?
Yes.
All right.
Where you were erasing out the diagonal lines.
Yeah, it's so interesting having to, building the structure of the chair, with dark lines, with positive lines, and then blending all that out, and then erasing to turn to flip that script where you have was dark against light, and now we have light against dark.
And we have to do that on the wall under the chair rail too, right? To get to then erase out the arm of the chair.
Yep, I think so. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I was thinking with I was thinking when I was making notes, I'm like, this armchair is way thicker than I had made it. And like you said, it really is a matter of we have to shade the background so that the chair will be light against dark. So maybe we should not waste any time with that. What Stacy was saying is what I wanted to address really quick. She's not here. Whoops. Before I forget.
Yeah, I can hear. I took the volume all the way up.
Yeah, the chair is not like a rectangular cushion. It is higher, on the inside. Mm-hmm. And it's, if you were to imagine watching like if I were to do bracelet lines, it starts higher, mm-hmm. and it dips down into a valley, and then it comes forward. And it's getting high. So it's higher up on the top, and then it dips down before flowing out. And then it's, when I say flowing out, I mean, it's like there's a flat plane that's almost like this trough, and then it hits the edge, and then it falls, and then it pours over. There is still a front edge.
Right.
Where the middle is, where the legs are, it is actually very, very flat. So it comes and then it softly pours out, rather than, hitting the edge of the cushion and then angling straight down. So these are the XY coordinates that will be, essentially blended out completely. But Adele, I think you're complete. Let me just plop in what's not there right now, and then I think this thing will move a lot faster than I'm expecting. But I want to get I'm seeing the blouse. First of all, I'm seeing the blouse divided into half on the vertical. So there is a fold that runs through the middle, and you can actually see it reminds me almost of the curtains down here. It's going to be a little bit blocky. So there's a right side of the blouse, and then there's a left side of the blouse. We call it a scarf, a blouse, whatever you want to call it. But then there's the part that's on the top of the railing, which I talked about yesterday. Then there's a part that's on the far side. Then the part that's on our side that's hanging over, there's an angled portion, and then there's the vertical portion. So it's at the top is part 1 and then part 2. So there's the top portion, which I think is pretty understandable. And then there's this angled part. And I'm seeing through, before you could see my lines for the chair, and I just have to lose those. And then this last part where it hits the edge, a little bit higher than maybe I have it, and then you get this strong vertical. Could be slightly tilted. The exciting part here, well, I guess it's not that. Yeah, it's exciting. I'm not gonna say it's not exciting. It's very exciting. It becomes a cube again. So we get this plane, and then it angles in, and then it goes up, and you get the where it's shaded outside plane, inside plane, and that's what kind of helps separate the two. And I know where my foot of it, the foot of the chair is, and so it's got a blocky bottom here, and then it's gonna have a curvy bottom on this side, so it's puffy. So she plays that game of light to dark so well. So we're going outside plane, angles in, angles flat again, and then turns into a puff. And the sad part about that whole thing is that we're gonna have to erase it. Not erase it, but just we're gonna have to make it very, very quiet. So I made my foot a little bit smaller, and then kept most of my foot due to the shadow. All right. That crease that goes up in the seam of the middle, we'll kind of continue that in the middle plane. So watch, I think what will happen is and again, I think it might be the sheer nature of the scarf that, we can add some of these angles. Again, these dark lines that I'm putting in, these little checkers, they're gonna have to be pulled out and light again, just like the wicker. But I just want to be able to see that she's attempting to make you be able to see through, or she's showing you that there's this beautiful pattern on the outside, and I just don't know. I don't know what it is yet. We will find out. So we got outside, cuts down in. So I might even erase a little bit of the, even though it's going to be dark later, I want to be able to see the mass of this, really beautiful blouse. Now, right up against the blouse is the angled stick of the umbrella. And they certainly don't make umbrellas like this anymore. Look how long it is. I want a long umbrella stick. And the little handle hook is delightful. So with oil paint, when we're sketching with a pencil, you're making dark marks on light paper, and this is where oil painting is totally superior, because you don't, whenever you're painting, you're always painting on top, and it's, you're always painting in a sense positively. Like, you can think about the shadows, you can think about and you can in a sense remove. I mean, you can scrape paint out, but we would mix up a yellow. We'd mix up a light yellow and a dark yellow. You paint the dark part first, and you add the light highlights to it. Where like the lightest moments are the thickest paint. Here, our lightest moments are the least amount of pencil material, and I'm just like showing the edge of the cushion as an example. In one of my youth classes, we sketched a paper airplane, and it was just this really amazing series of triangles. So in that spirit, I probably shouldn't have done that yet, but we're going from the known into the unknown, which is the edge of the chair. I probably even put that in the wrong spot, but it's the chair backing and then the handle. So then we find the angle of the handle relative to our blouse or the blue scarf. And now, it's a series of overlapping triangles where the flaps of the umbrella happen. So this flap is angled down. Looks like there's like kind of a series of layered flaps that occur in the loose part. It's the loosest part of the umbrella. In fact, these flaps on this side may be folded down the other half. Some are folded towards us, some are folded on the other side. Those are a little bit more free flowing because there's all this excess material. The triangle for the structure of the end of the umbrella is unmistakable. It is a triangle, and it's less fabric because it's like the ratio of structure to fabric, is different. And if I were to continue this down, I don't think it's going to be really a problem anywhere except for right here. It's a very bold and confident triangle that needs to be centered on the handle. And then you get this wonderful metal transition that links all of those spikes together. And then there's the little, I'm sure it has a name, the umbrella tip. It could either be a cylinder. I happen to think it's probably a cone. That would be, if it was from the Spy Museum, it would be a gun barrel.
Yes.
Still have yet to go to that. I've been to the FBI. And they have a room of gadgets.
Spy Museum, it's fun.
Yeah, I gotta check it out. I do enjoy spy movies. And my dad is in the intelligence field.
Why would you tell us that?
It's all right. I'm not going to kill anybody. Well.
Well.
Not unless I have to. I have been very blessed to be in a good position where I haven't had to make any calls like that. And I pray it stays that way. So this is going to be a light umbrella up against a dark background. So we kind of have all of our players in place. And I think it's going to be a tonality tap dancing party from here on out. I think we should kind of start with I don't even know where we should start. We're going to be able to do some drawing when you draw the shape of an object, you draw its edge. That's one way of thinking about it. You're drawing, the moon. You draw a circle, and that circle either gets blended into the into the moon. If it's a dark night, that line of the moon would get blended into the night sky. If you're looking at the line for this umbrella, that gets blended into the background. The line for the edge of the chair gets blended into the background. As we shade that line, as we shade that background, we can then further correct our drawing. I think I mentioned this yesterday in the youth class. You can kind of have the drawing that I made right now is almost like a coloring book. So I've got the lines of the coloring book, and now I need to shade it in or color them in. And you can switch your mentality to the point where you're kind of editing your own work. It's almost like you're imagining that somebody else made it and you're trying to fix it and make it better. So I'm going to take my little umbrella tip out, and I also wrote down in my notes to ask a little bit of forgiveness for the space between the table. So if you think about, I'm going to zoom, there we go. I'm going to zoom out a little bit more. You've got the table leg. I've got my table leg, and then you've got the leg of the chair, the arm of the chair, the leg of the chair. And you have the space below the chair rail, the chair rail and the chair rail itself, and then the angled wall that's in shadow, and then the part of the wedge that's in light. And the space between the leg of the table and the chair creates its own beautiful object. In a way, it becomes a positive shape. And if you look at what I've got going, my leg is very far removed from the edge of the chair. So you can make the table relative to itself. You can make the chair relative to itself. And the spaces that are adjustable are in fact the spaces between. So I did not move my chair close enough to the table in the way that Gwen John did. She was sitting there and she's like, oh, should I make the chair close, make it far away? She probably made it in the exact position where she likes to sit. It probably has the best light for reading, if you think about it. Like, her head was probably in shadow as she leaned back, and then the book itself was in, I can just imagine her sitting here, where her head's in shadow and the book's in light, and it's must have been so pleasant. It almost feels as though there's a ghost in there. Do you see that? Oh, that's a little spooky. I wonder if there was, at some point, somebody was painted sitting in the chair. I'm looking up the
wow.
texture of the paint. I don't know if that's a real thing, but we know that she would make bold edits like that. Like, can you imagine someone's arm on the chair right here? And then I could see a lot of that being like repainted, painting someone out of the picture. I don't know. I don't want to get into that. That's a little.
That's a little spooky.
It's a little spooky.
Yeah.
It's a little spooky. We have a haunted statue in our neighborhood. It's definitely a little spooky. But I mean, it is also just an artistic edit. What's that, Adele?
Look at how dark the wall behind the back of the chair, behind.
Yeah.
There. That's a lot darker than.
It's like a halo. Yeah.
And I guess she did that so that she could enhance the contrast between the light.
To make the chair pop out more.
Yeah.
I think so. And I think I think that I do.
Because it's not consistent with, it's not a shadow that's being cast. And
I don't think it is either. Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of like whenever you draw like a sailboat in the ocean, you'll have kids that'll like do a painting, or people, adults even, they'll paint the sky up to the side of one sail, and then they'll work on something else, and then by the time they paint the other side of it and they bring it up, and it's like you have one sky that's here and a completely different sky that's here, but the separation between them is just like an arbitrary, triangle sail from a boat. And it's like, oh no, that does not work. And when you think about it, I mean, you have here, and then when it passes behind, this wall, you don't believe necessarily that it's the same wall behind there. But if it was, I mean, see how close the wicker, the color and the value of the wicker is to the wall of the shaded. And I don't think she wanted it to disappear. Like, the wall color and the value is almost exactly the same as the color and the value of the wicker chair. And the only way that could separate from the wall is to either make it lighter, which I think she did a little bit, or make the background darker, which she very clearly did. And it's only now in our attempt to render it that we're really noticing it, which kind of says a lot. I mean, it's like she got away with it, like it's in this world, in our world, it's like on closer examination, it's kind of too much. But initially, your initial response is that, yeah, that's fine. That's beautiful. It looks like that. And that effect may have kind of happened actually with our eyes. The wall might actually appear to look a lot different when you allow your eyes to focus on the light of the chair. And, that happens. I brought this up on Tuesday, and Adele, I don't know if you've heard this, but it's a really good point. The painting is superior to the photograph, and I don't need to make it a competition, but paintings record infinite records. It recorded infinite records of your eye being on an exact calibration for the thing that you're painting. So your eye it involuntarily adjusts the settings based on what you're seeing and what you're focused on. So you can set intention. You look underneath the table. I'm looking underneath this exercise ball, and my pupils actually get bigger, and they're able to hone in on the range of values that are happening underneath the shadow of that. And then I look at the top of the exercise ball, my pupil gets smaller. And so then it underexposes it so I can see a wider range of what's going on in the light. And that's the case with Gwen's chair. Her calibrated setting of her eyes are different, in this part of the room with the chair and the background versus the calibrated setting of her eyes on the tabletop with the flowers. And then definitely different than when she's looking at her pupils must have gotten so small when she was looking and painting the light of the window. In fact, when she was painting the light coming in the window, I wonder if she even was forced to kind of paint it out of her peripheral because it was so bright. So the eye makes involuntary decisions on how it calibrates. The artist makes intentional calibrated decisions. And I think that when we get underneath this table, I think underneath the chair in the deep shadows, I think she kind of intentionally reduced the amount of information that she saw, or the room was so bright and the light was so bright all the time that it would be too hard for her eyes to actually adjust to see anything more underneath that chair. It's really interesting to think about. All right, so let's start doing this toning thing. Do you guys have any other questions? Stace, did you have any other questions?
I don't. Thank you.
Sure. I'm just wondering if I need to, I said that my leg was really a far distance away, and I'm wondering if I could even make it, fudge it and try to make this leg bigger, and then make my chair a little bit wider and try to close that gap of the distance to make it a little bit more accurate. And again, it's not cheating. I think it's just being a little bit more, honestly, a little bit more accurate. So again, I'm almost, it was interesting the way I drew, I'll zoom in a little bit. The way I drew that edge, this edge here, I didn't draw it knowing that it would be part of the chair. I drew it knowing that it would be blended into the background. And there's a different way of thinking about a line when you know that it's on the outside of an object and not the object itself. A lot of times you go into sketching and you don't really know what it's going to be because it's so early on. You can't, it's hard to anticipate it. But here, I could. And so it was just a different way of, and I did that over here too. I drew this line, and this line I knew was going to be part of the chair. So that's how I'm drawing this line versus this line, knowing that it's going to be part of the background. Ooh, wow, look at that. So where the chair meets the leg, let's slide this over a little bit. I'm looking where the chair meets the leg. Excuse me. Where the floor meets the wall. and where that intersection of the floor meeting the wall, where that meets with the leg and with my chair. So I think I need to drop that distance down a little bit. And Grace, or not Grace, but Adele, I remember when I was looking at Grace's picture, it felt as though the legs went a little bit too long. And for the life of me, it's hard to tell where these legs end. You know, because they seem to move at every turn. And I'm like, they could be right. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't even know if it's right on my own piece. So I've got the floorboard, which is lighter than the floor. And I think that was where, so I hadn't realized it when I started this out, but what I'm working on here is the space in terms of re-entry. I might even just slide this whole thing over so it's more visible, even though we're cropping off the left side. I'm trying to figure out what is happening for me personally, for my art piece, that is, in between the chair and the leg. And that getting that whole, like getting the space between them established. And then there's the space between, of course, the wedge, the orange wedge, and the edge of the table. And then the edge of the table and the chair rail. And the chair rail and the arm of the chair. And at least I'm consistent. So like when I say I'm consistent, I moved my chair over to the left and I moved it a little bit low. And so the wall below the chair rail, above the chair, the left of the leg, they seem to make logical sense. Nice. So where my shape, where I'm coming in, I can now that I'm seeing the floor, I have my floorboard, which is going to disappear behind the triangle of the wicker. And it's going to get a little bit lighter between the legs of my chair. And then luckily my foot comes down just low enough. All right, I'm a little bit off screen. We'll come back and readdress that when the time comes. But floorboard, plum, beautiful plum tone that's going to go beyond the leg. So it starts on one side of the right side of the leg, and then it goes over to the left. So I'm doing the floor beneath that structure support, and before I get to the shadow that's being cast from the leg. And to be fair, the lines that I have on the floor already is the trapezoid created by the contact points of the legs on the floor, not the nature of the shadow. So that was for the previous lesson. So I actually need to lose those lines because they don't conform to the shadow. It's just going to be distracting. And I actually fell for it a little bit here. There's two. So Adele, you make that point of perhaps the two light sources.
I
You know,
take that
there's
back. I take that back.
I don't know though, but look
Yeah.
at how the leg, the foot, the leg that attaches to the ground shoots off back here, and then there's another shadow that shoots off this way.
I
So
think that part,
either the chair makes that whole triangular shadow, and
yeah,
she just gives us a little a little reflected light, meaning so like she softens the shape by lightening it in the middle.
yeah,
I think that might be it.
yeah. But
But
you see
do
that
you
line
see
you
how
just drew?
there's two lines on either side of the triangle of the shadow?
Yeah, but that line you just drew is parallel to the reflection of the window onto the floor, which tells me that it must be the same light source.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. Okay, so I got into the. I'm just gonna quickly look over where I can see what's happening on the screen. So I love this. I love this space. I actually like my shape even more. There is a tension between the table and the chair. I mean, and I eased it by having a little bit more separation. A big relationship in the entire picture is the zone that we're working on here is the light chair up against the dark background. But I would say that like probably the most powerful shape in the entire picture is this light yellow triangled wedge that represents the side plane of this angled wall. It's a vertical element. And then this neutral tone wall. So the yellow triangle is just so big. And it's almost like the sun. It's so interesting because the sun is yellow, but it's always a sphere. And in this picture, it's almost like she made the sun a triangle. What I was doing here is there's this intersection point all in here where you get the rail, the tip of the triangle, the space between the tip of the triangle and the leg, the corner of the table, the ending point of the leg, the corner of the chair, and the space between the legs, the chair and the leg. So all of those things are kind of converging. So like in terms of vectors, it's going to be a focal point. And so what she does brilliantly is she just kind of like eases all of it down. And there's no reason why. I mean, I guess perhaps you can make a case for the bottom of this triangle that I'm sketching right here would be somewhat muted because the light would be coming, more directly. Hitting the wall would be light, and then maybe a little bit below here would be dark. I think it's probably a function of what was actually happening naturally. And if it was not just natural, it was also, if it didn't happen naturally, it was a wise decision to make it more subdued because of how many different elements of the picture are coming together in one kind of arbitrary area. So I'm acknowledging all of the components that are happening. I mean, look at there's this idea that called passage. I'm going to move over here, and it's just a French term for passage. And it's where you have a crisp linear component. And in order to make that disappear and seem like there's atmosphere between that linear object and an object that's in front of that linear object, you blur the edge and you soften the connection, and it does the trick. And if you see here, look at the crispness of the line all the way up, and then the line just completely disappears. Along the edge, you can see the wicker, and then there's no contact point with that rail. it literally passages. It's a crisp line, and then that line stops before it has a chance to kiss the edge of the chair. Now it does peek through here in the back, but what a fascinating way of, and maybe it was that passage that got me thinking that maybe there was something that was painted there before that got overpainted. I think it's just passage. I think it's just the treatment of that edge. And we talk about edges a lot, especially with the rose, where there's a line, and then that line gets blended, into one object or another. So the edge is where one object hits another object. And what is that relationship? Is it a high contrast or is it low contrast? So it's not that the space next to the arm ceases to be, rail, like chair rail. It is the molding on the wall. It's just the contrast is reduced by the minimizing of the detail and the softening of the value. So the arm really comes in front of the rail, and the rail really disappears behind, because of how she treats the edge of the rail going behind that arm. It's really spectacular. And when we're doing this in graphite, let me slide this over because I'm able to do that now. In graphite, it's even easier in a way because you can just blend it, and then I can make the lines leading up to it crisp, and then they just disappear. And then of course I can make that a light chair up against that dark background. So like in any good painting, any good process, one form leads to another. And so I had to start with the leg in terms of the re-entry. And then I did the space between the leg and the chair. And then and part of what's between the leg and the chair is the base of the triangle, the angled wall, and the chair rail. So I had to address all of those. And what's nice about that is that, if we can figure out the relationship between the wall that's in shadow by the chair, the golden wedge, and the shaded plane, that gives us a background. That gives us our background to the chair. And I'm going to conform because I know they really do give us this angle. And that's the angle that the wall is built because of the roof on the outside, the mansard roof on the outside. So you have, this becomes the X direction, this becomes the Y direction, and the X direction is going to be echoing the direction of the rail, the chair rail. So in order for me to build this value, I'm going to lay my pigments in this XY to help establish a plane, so it's not willy-nilly, and then it will all be blended out into a soft tone where the directions will be almost nothing but a faint suggestion. And this method is done identically in painting. And that's why I think graphite is such a beautiful, graphite and charcoal, how you can manipulate both of those mediums on the surface after they've been applied, is a nice little training ground for a safe and clean training ground for oil paint. And we'll get to come back up. I'm just going to go up to the point where it goes off the screen here, and we'll be able to. And this shadow is really obtrusive, and I acknowledge that the shadow is obtrusive. So that we'll only do kind of, there is, if you look at it, there is kind of a halo Adele, she does attempt to, she does attempt to diffuse that. She acknowledges that behind this chair is dark, and she attempts to diffuse that out as seamlessly as possible into that wall. And whether she paints that wall dark and then brings thicker, lighter paint in from the top in to blend it, or whether she's going dark out, I think that's probably more what it is. I think she paints the wall a dark gray, and leaves the raw gray behind the chair, and then she actually comes in with some lighter, more opaque tones for the underside of the wall, and she gently fades the light into the dark, which would be natural for the fat over lean, meaning like the thick paint, the lighter paint on top of the darker paint. So in here would be considered almost not necessarily an underpainting, but would have been painted first before this topical paint.
I love how the tone changes on that canted wall behind the chair, and it gets dark towards the top.
Yep, it gets more intense as it gets towards the top, and the contrast of the wallpaper also. If you look at the wallpaper all the way at the top, there's all kinds of beautiful floral that are able to, suggestions that really take care of that top corner. She ran the risk of, really having the top left-hand side, too geometric and kind of not interesting. And the vertical lines of the wallpaper diffusing into the edge, and then vignetting the corner with what I would assume is a regular floral pattern on the wallpaper. It's really smart.
Folks, I don't see a wallpaper pattern. I just see like deeper, darker.
Do you have the image, the actual image that I emailed?
I do.
If you get that, you'll see it at the top. I can actually lift it up for 1 second. Do you see it in this corner?
Yes.
It almost looks like a little splatter painty.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of flecks of paint.
Yeah, I just thought it was old, worn wallpaper.
I think it is.
But I didn't see it as floral. I just saw it as.
Oh, like tarnished.
Yes. Kind of like the faux finishes that you see today,
Yes.
Sponge painting on walls that
you
do.
Probably the same technique, actually.
I'm curious to figure out how to make that beautiful striped pattern on the light triangular pane of wall. That fascinates me. Do you do it with the eraser again?
Yeah, totally. I think we're gonna do it. If we did like a light basic tone of the whole shape, and then did that, like you're saying, just come down. You could do a couple things. You could add maybe the dark, because there is some dark moments that are a little bit thicker. So you could establish a criteria for the darker tones. So I did a light tone, and now I'm applying the dark tone with my pencil. That's one method. So when you put a light tone on there, you're making it so light that it's going to stand for the lightest of the stripes. I don't think that's smart though, because as I apply these, they're getting so dark.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be safer to tone the whole thing a slight degree softer than, and then come in with your edge of your new Bic pencil. Maybe I'll actually take my own advice. Get a fresh. I think it would also be very helpful to have a ruler.
Yeah. I was going to say my architectural training would have me do this with a ruler.
Yeah, and I think she did.
It's
If you look at how
so
she did it, it feels like a ruler. And mine feels crooked on the screen, even though it's not crooked on my paper. That's a little straighter. I like that there's more revealed here. Well, I'm going to try and be a good boy here and try to see through, you know, the darker gray of. I'm going to switch pencils. I kind of had set out. I initially had set out to get the area around the chair done, but we're going at our own pace. We're doing our own thing. I think the addressing the wall is healthy. Anticipating the next move, very healthy. Looking how you see the stripes in the middle, not so much at the top, and then very few. I mean, if you look at this, these are all washed out right here. You didn't see any.
It's going to be hard to maintain contrast in this picture.
It's just so subtle.
Yeah.
I think that was why I gravitated so heavily towards the almost the rows as a training exercise, because it was so repetitive. It was the same thing over and over again, but it was also the same thing on a very subtle level over and over again. Good stuff. All right. Yeah, the same thing's gonna happen with Mark. There's a really crazy texture back here. It looks like she struggled. And just because you do things a couple times doesn't mean you struggle, but part of the fun of oil painting is that you and frankly the fun of graphite and charcoal. You can work things and rework them. Oil, it's a little bit more. There's better payoff. There's better payoff, and you're never going to degrade. The more paint you add, you're always improving. You're never degrading. When you have materials that are fragile like paper, you can work it so hard that it does degrade it a little bit, depending on the quality of the paper, and really like the level of effort that you're willing to put in. I mean, there's you look at painters, they're draftsmen like who's the French, or not the French, the Spanish painter. Oh my gosh. Not Sorolla, Lopez Garcia, Antonio Lopez Garcia. He has these. I actually photographed one. They were selling it at like Pace Gallery or something like that. But look at this. Look at the way that this one photo is just worked and reworked, and that's part of his process. He was just like an uber stickler for proportion and playing little visual games in terms of measurement. And you'll look at this picture and you're like, oh, it's a photograph. Well, it actually isn't a photograph, and it's here it is. Okay, we're really selling it. I don't know. Look at this guy. So it's
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
he's got a floor pattern. He's got natural light. He's got, it's like this, who knows what it looks like. It's a horrific space, if you ask me. It's a kind of a back room, laundry room type of thing. But the way, I mean, you can really, he just works and reworks and finds the shadows and the cast shadows and a lot of the same elements that we're having here. It's just he does these details on like a micro level. I wonder how far we can zoom in on it. Yeah, it's a relatively low. It's a low quality picture, but Lopez Garcia loves doing these highly invested value studies. And his paint, he is actually a pretty good colorist when it comes down to it, but very Spanish, still alive. Paints his family. I actually saw this man in the museum in Boston. We went to go hear him speak, and I saw him with his wife, his daughter, and his granddaughter, and they're all having lunch in the cafe. And I was like, this is just too much. It was like once in a lifetime. You just never see it. It's a man in his pain, a man living in his paintings, with his paintings there, his living paintings around him. It was awesome. Anyway, he doesn't speak English one iota. And this poor lady, she's a Southern lady who thought she could translate Spanish. He was like dropping the most intelligent art bombs, like giving it. He doesn't know how to do it. I mean, he's an old man who's painted his whole life. He's just like achieved the highest heights of ecstasy in paint. And he's trying to communicate it, and he just like said like a paragraph, and she was like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do this. It was really sad, actually. It was real sad. I felt bad for her, and she was just out of her league. I'm sure she was a fine translator, but you gotta get someone that knows art and Spanish. Two requirements. You need to know how to paint and speak Spanish if you're going to translate it.
Yeah. Yeah. Trevor?
Yes, Stace.
I have to cut out, take care of Talk.
Okay.
This was an hour, right?
No. I mean, I'm probably just going to go to the end.
Okay.
I'm going to go to the end. You feel free to come back on.
Okay.
Adele, same thing with you. Don't feel like you have to stay on or anything.
No, I'm loving this. This is terrific.
Yeah, I feel really bad. I have to cut out. But can I really, really quickly show you mine and then fly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's far from finished, and my chair is too small and blah, blah. So wait a minute. There we go.
Wow.
Well, I have to
There's
pin
a lot
you.
of contrast in there, which is really good.
Whoa, cool. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looks great. And the whole thing will be all tied up so fast when you find that little square, the little ambiguous shape behind the chair and the edge of the painting.
Yeah.
And once you have a tone, I would, even before you leave,
Here.
if you can, I would just lay it in. It's just got to be a little bit darker than the reflected wall and a little bit lighter, and then a little bit lighter than the floor. And then you'll have every single component of the rectangle addressed, and you'll actually be able to breathe deep and say, all right, let's see this as a whole. What can be, adjusted? And nothing. It might be done. I mean, that might be all you have to do is fill in that little shape. But take 10 seconds and just make sure it's a little lighter than the wall, a little darker than the wall above it, and significantly lighter than the floor below it. And then you'll see it. Yeah, lighter than the wall above it, and then darker than the floor. Excuse me.
Okay.
Darker than the wall above it, lighter than the floor.
Darker, lighter, darker, lighter, darker, lighter.
The floor is the darkest. the next part is lighter, and then the wall of the angled wall is the lightest. Sorry, Bellas.
Got it. Trevor, thank you so much. I'm hoping I can come back.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we'll be here.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Darker than above, lighter than below. All right. I think, okay, bye-bye.
As above is not so below. Screen share.
Okay, so my values are all too close together.
Do you want to show me yours?
Yeah,
Let me stop the show real quick while I can see it.
My light is bad. Wait a minute. Here.
Whoa. You think your values are too close together?
Yeah, there isn't enough contrast. I mean, there's contrast in the floor but
Yeah, the floor I think the floor is really nice. I mean, it reads well. I'm trying to compare it to the one that I'm looking at here. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I would do. I mean, maybe the wall behind the umbrella needs to be a little bit darker. Perhaps the end of I feel like the umbrella does. Oh, maybe if you shade in the blue blouse,
yeah,
that might be a component, because I think one of the light to dark, light to dark, light to dark, that kind of like trickle goes all the way through. And if you look at the umbrella, the blouse, and the seat cushion, it goes light, 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 and you need light to dark to light to dark to light to dark.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I haven't done those three.
Right.
Yeah,
But I mean, but I mean, I don't see any, hold it up one more time. Maybe there needs to be a more contrast between the golden wedge. Yeah, that might be it. The golden wedge.
Yeah, I haven't
needs to
done.
be, and you might have the values actually correct. It's just yellow is such a bold, high intensity color, high wavelength color, that in order to mimic that in the graphite, make the angled wall darker, and and keep the lightness of the golden wedge. So yeah, that might be one of these deviations that because color has an impact, the ability to impact the way it reads. You just have to do it in value. So that, I would say, that's the only real contrast that is not working. I mean, and the shadow underneath the chair appears to be too dark, but that might be because it may be too dark in some areas, but its border, that plum border, might be slightly too light, and you want to make sure that the shadow underneath the chair has really soft diffused edges, and transitions. There is a dark, a medium, and light, but then there's going to be really ambiguous transition zones, so that it doesn't feel like it's a hole in the ground.
Right.
Crisp edges make it feel like a hole.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, that was good. It looks great though.
Yeah, and I'm gonna, I've pulled out my ruler. I'm gonna work on that.
Nice, do it. I should too. I actually got a whole bunch of cool art supplies from Sam's Club. Well, they're more like it's just like a cutting board. It came with a ruler and a bunch of scissors.
Oh, that's always fun.
Yeah, and there's nothing like a fresh, sharp pair of scissors.
Oh, I know.
Screen share. In the youth class, it was one of the things I pointed out too, and I don't need to tell you, Adele, but it's amazing how much pigment is actually down there. I'm just looking at my blouse, and I haven't got the floor or the shadow, and now that I know that you have that there, I feel much more comfortable about kind of motoring through that, which I'm very, very excited to do. But what I was saying is that with this concentration of pigment, even in the line work, when I'm not even adding any pigment here. I'm just using the silhouette lines and my kind of structure lines, and just blending that out. And I'm gonna get, I think, a nice, it may not be as dark as it needs to go, and it may need some light areas and dark areas, but like I can squint my eyes and now it's at least it's a dark object, just by giving it that mid-tone. And probably is even darker. It feels even darker still because I don't have the shadow on there. Right now it's like one of the darkest elements in my picture and it's not even that dark. So here we go. This is going to be a blast. Oh, hey, doggies. They were freaking out, babe.
I figured. I did not walk them, so I'm gonna let you do that.
Okay. Yeah, I walked them right before I started this.
That's what I
And
thought.
they both went.
They're eating carrots.
Well, that's what they wanted.
Yeah, I know. They're eating carrots right now. I did the Peloton cord earlier.
All right, I'm not getting into that. I'm saving the icing. I'm going to call the chair the icing on the cake, like the decorated icing. What the actual cake needs to be, the cake, the line work is baking the cake, and then we got to ice the entire thing before we start decorating.
I'm sorry. What?
I'm not talking to you, babe.
Who you talking to?
Adele.
Oh my god, are you still recording?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I thought you were done. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. She's like, what kind of cake are you talking about?
I thought you meant for Peter. I'm like, I don't have time to bake a cake.
Who's baking a cake?
Bake me a cake.
You want to, that's all you.
Bake me a cake.
Cookies.
Yeah, I want cookies, not a cake. All right. So this is good. All this general value. I just got to be dedicated. It's 12:19. By 12:30, I'm gonna have every value addressed on all the shapes that I have left over. And I might even zoom out a little bit so we can see what that looks like, because there's no details at this point. So I just need to I want all the values working. And there's no excuse to not have addressed that already. I mean, we're how many hours deep? Too many.
Quite a few.
What, 3 or 4? Probably 4. Everything will be. It'll be so much more. We'll get to. The goal should be to get every zone addressed with some tone. We don't even have a light chair up against a dark background yet. At least I don't. You do.
This drawing with tortillions is very new to me.
Yeah, it's going to serve the concept of it is going to help so much when you get to when you're introduced to paint. When you start painting, you're gonna think it's bizarre how easy it is. You're like it can't be this easy. And I'll say yes, it is that easy because you've already invested all these other things. And there's no concepts that you can't get.
Yeah, it's interesting that I've never really done much painting, even though I went to art school.
Yeah, art schools. Art schools have been in a lot of trouble for a long time. But we're breaking the old spell, casting new ones. Cool. There's something interesting about the. It feels like these tiles are almost radiating out. I'm not looking at do you see how there's almost like a curving radius?
Yeah.
like a fan. So I'm just helping to separate the mid-tone plum from the deep dark plum, both in the front and the back.
I don't know about putting all those hexagons in there.
Yeah, I don't think there's that many.
That's really hard.
Yeah, we'll find. I mean, we'll find the system for it. It's. Okay. Potential hexagon theory. So I'm looking at like I see how I built this arc that came across. The hexagons, they're almost vertical here, and then they kind of incrementally are evenly spaced. Get a little bit smaller. So I'm trying to do like a row. And then I can find how they all link together in that row. And then we'll do a little arrowhead on each. And then where they connect should get us another. And then that will have an arrowhead. See how it was almost like the square
Yeah.
that did it. And then instead of building a square, I put a triangle at the end.
And we don't really think about perspective very much as we do this.
I did.
Because that can be skewed.
Right, and it's. I was thinking radiating from like this corner. Yeah, it's like you want to get enough down so it defines the plane, but you don't want to put enough that it shows that your perspective is off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just blend, and so it is a suggestion, and it's not a, it's not real.
Yeah.
This side looks kind of real.
And they fade into the light.
Mm-hmm. And there's like nothing over here. This is what I have so far. I can move this up and over.
Yeah.
So my perspective had to do with this direction. And I just made it work for mine. I don't know if that's good or bad or what. But. I mean, I like it. I like them. And I like that it should be kind of a little bit liberating for you in that, you know, like usually you have like super high standards about what is acceptable, you know, and here it's like you don't need them. All right, I'm gonna blend these out too because I screwed them up. Okay, Adele, can you give me a second? I gotta go let this doggy out. Come on, Bales. Does he get to go out?
Not on
Oops. But I think I did accomplish my goal at least. I got all of the got the floor values in there. I guess I do need even more. The shadow is just not dark enough. And then I'll be able to come in and detail this chair.
You're gonna mess up your recording to roll from. Do you need to do it?
I mean, if you can. But I mean, I don't care. I mean, like, we can edit it out anyway.
I mean, if it's all gonna cut work too, there.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Come on, doggies. I'm back.
Yeah.
All right. I think I might
You can spend an hour laying in bed on that
use
wall.
the image from my phone for a little while. It might make it easier to zoom in on some of these details without taking up all this extra space. I think I saw that.
And then
That's
good
what
point. Wonder what he's up to. Chris is hiding. So I said hi. I said, go a minute.
I think so. I don't know if I get it. So this dog is gonna whimper until I feed him part of my apple.
Yep.
Which will never happen.
I probably didn't even want to go out.
No, they need to go out. Did I not save? Goodness gracious. I thought I saved in classical drawing. Maybe I didn't. Okay, here we go. Gotta find the right series. This one is pretty close up. Pretty close up. Wow. Interesting. Okay. All right, so there's that one. We can see everything. Oh, well, look at that. This is the one that's from with the window open. I love this painting. Oh, let's see where it's. Yeah, it's just good painting.
Wow.
For some reason, Adele, the one that you're working on feels like this one. And I think it's because everything's a lot more unified. You know what I mean? I think there's almost like a cleaner, narrower value range is what you were saying before. Is that what was a shortcoming of your piece compared to this piece in terms of like how contrasty it is? And I honestly agree with this version. This is very contrasty. And then you look at this one, and it is way more subtle. And I feel like this is kind of like almost more Gwen John. And maybe that was a reproduction issue. Let's see, this was one version. It's another version. And which is the one that I took from the book? I think this one came from the internet. And look at that the bluish purple back here, how it shows up.
Beautiful.
Completely different color.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I don't think this is, I think the book is actually truer than all of that purple. I don't think she would do that. Even the purple on the floor. I mean, that's like straight up grape.
In my day,
Look at that color versus that color.
Yeah.
This is red.
Yeah.
That's a deep purple.
It makes
Now the blue, that blue looks really nice. The blue of the blouse looks gorgeous comparatively, but it's just such a tough read. I mean, look at the colors of that background. You just really, it's really, you don't know. And I was gonna say, the image on the phone coming through the iPad onto this computer, reads as even more purple than this, but still, even when I'm looking at it, comparing these two in person, it's a lot.
Yeah. In my day, we had to photograph
So how
everything
about
with
this one? Does
slide.
that, I think this is the same one. So yeah, I guess I probably shouldn't. I mean, for the flowers, maybe, what I mean? For the flowers, they look, I don't know how you could look any better than that. But here, it's if we were to do the value on this, I don't think it would work. I just don't. I think it would just throw off. I think it would throw off the whole game. I mean, look how dark these go. All black. She didn't paint it like that. It's just not painted this way. So I'll abandon that. I think it was good. I think it's good to go back in and look at the various references that we were working with. But it's just my chair is just so much bigger than the reference here. But when it's zoomed out, it's not bad. And that's kind of neat. At at a distance where the screen is cropping off hers at the same place that mine is cropped. So that's kind of interesting. All right, let's you got to be getting pretty close to being done, are you?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's always a lot of tinkering. But it's getting there. It's getting there for sure. I don't know how to do
Beautiful.
the scarf though. I don't
She
know
really
how.
does get a nice show of perspective. It's almost like that. It's almost like the tops of the chair remind me a little bit of the blouse, or not the blouse, but the jacket from yesterday, where on the one side it turns away and you don't see a lot of it, but this part on the arm, not only does it turn towards us, but it also angles to the side. So it almost appears like there's a lot more chair because it's seen at an angle. Throw in this little wicker weave. The reason I was saying it is because whether it's true or not, it really helps with the perspective by making the far side smaller. It really helps push it back just helps it push it back.
Yeah.
And in order to get those, I have to expand the inner diamonds in order to shave away at the thickness of the wicker. So I want very thin, delicate lines, and it's not an easy charge either when you're working with graphite like this. So how do you get the inner triangles to read as being unified, and yet make the thin, delicate crossbars thin enough? Oh, bales. Bales is a tortured artist. Very whiny.
You don't want to lose the stark white of your lines.
Yeah, and even as I sketched in these edges, I had to define the rectangle, the diamonds by doing the edges and carving them in. I do want to soften them, so like the texture of the wicker really should stand out against a softer, less interesting texture of the generic wall. So the wall really should read like a mist, more ephemeral, less variation. So I'm trying to figure out how I can make the wicker, I'm putting little dots in there, maybe make those stand out. Whereas the background wall will be, softer, more generic. And where you can make these differentiations in paint, it's harder to do that with the graphite. But it's easier to blend. Not have to be quite as delicate. And I'm staying kind of true to my original erasing of the grid. So I'm doing two things. I'm mimicking the treatment, but I'm also in the spirit of the arrangement rather than copying each individual one.
Yeah.
Because I care, but I don't care that much. This is not we're not trying to copy this to be sold illicitly as a Gwen John. A whole folio of lost Gwen John drawings just magically discovered in a Lutherville attic. I wish.
So how are you going to get the texture of the scarf or the blouse in?
Ooh, do you see all that pink in there? Had you noticed that pink right here at the? I don't know where it is. I guess it's like looking through. God, that is a pink polka dotted seat cover. Did you see that?
I think that's just the shade side.
That was like God giving us the nicest treat for putting in all this extra time. Do you see all the pink polka dots? Did that really happen? Can you see it?
I see little dots.
Am I making that up? I mean, this is as far zoomed in as I can get. And those are pink polka dots.
Well, they're
just pink polka dots. And there's a pink.
There's pink.
There's like a pink chunk.
Yeah,
As she
shadow of the chair.
was painting through, the space between the wicker. Goodness. Putting in the time. Wow.
Yeah,
I
there's
mean,
pink
I
polka.
want to even use a pink. Should I use some pink? There's no one that can get mad at me.
Hmm?
I'm going to make the seat cushion pink. It's kind of as close as I can get. That's all right. I don't need to get any closer. So I'm going to go and erase most of my construction lines on that pillow. And I'm erasing with the gridding, conforming to the XY coordinates so I can help that stand out. Make that cushion pop out from that background. Does the pink show up there on your side, Adele? Is it just shiny?
I see it. I have mine blown up on my iPad, and I certainly see the pink.
I would like to imagine that I'm laying the
See.
pigment or laying the polka dots in somewhat of an order. The way that,
Yeah, see, I can blow it way up like this.
yeah, the way that it would logically wrap around the cushion. Or they might not even be a cushion, it might just be a bag of feathers. That might be why the form is as kind of as stiff and as molded.
Or horsehair.
And it is tucked in. So there's some, I think she tried to make it look like there was some polka dots coming through the molding there. Not the molding, the wicker work. Oh no. Okay, good. Whew. I looked at the umbrella and I thought maybe they had, I thought maybe there was polka dots on that too. And then I was like, I'm going crazy. I just can't believe that there's polka dots on here and I never noticed it. I just can't believe it. I just cannot believe that I've been staring at this for this long and never noticed it. I'm half like thinking it could just, I'll come back to it and I won't see it tomorrow. So blown away.
Is this Kristen? Hi.
Let's come up maybe a little higher even.
Okay. Okay, so we're all good. Okay, all right, perfect. So I will tell Brian to get that sent to Dave. All right, and I'm just gonna email, so I'll just tell you. I have someone pulling request 261. I told them earlier than next week for the support. Let me see. 255. Also responding the EEO, the equity edge reports now, so they should be over today. 136. The LTIP listing.
That's nice having the umbrella pop out a little bit. Maybe not too much. I'm trying to tone it down, but I had too many marks. I can just save the
He also needs to clean up the LTIP files.
one
So
note.
I'm asking him to try to have that done early next week. And
One little edge on that one
then
flap.
also include the equity report.
It
And then,
needs
245.
the umbrella handle on the other
Once I
side.
talk to these files, so I can do that if she's around, so I'm gonna send her a note. And then, you're gonna let me know about confirms for 249. If there's anything else comp related, let me know. All right, awesome, thank you so much. Okay, bye.
Well, it's been a nice dessert for sure.
Yeah.
The strawberry shortcake cushion was a cherry on top. I mean, couldn't believe it. Couldn't have asked for anything better. I can't even believe it.
I think we risk.
And every time I apply my graphite, it's just not going to be capable of doing what what paint could do. So it's just a matter of calming it down and maximizing its potential. And it does blend nicely. It's just the values aren't going to go. Even in this, I think that my values could go. I mean, maybe I could switch a pencil, but these shadow values could have been a little darker. A little bit darker than my graphite's capable of, I guess is what I'm saying. And it's getting there. This is as dark as I can make it. And it is comparable. I mean, the main event of the Wicker is this front section. It's the lightest paint. It's the lightest marks, and I think it's they're the crispest contrast. So I wound up detailing a lot up here, and we've been working on this for a couple hours now. So I could even be running out of steam, but I'm thinking about these shapes and really making sure that they pop out and taking the extra time. And the amount of hours that we put into this sketch, Gwen did probably, I don't know. I was going to say, I think she put in a lot more. I really do. Not that she would, in every phase of her life paint at this level. I think this piece, I think she set out for a masterpiece. Just with all the versions. And that's the thing, the amount of hours in this one painting, they may be about the same level that we put into it in terms of the executing of the painting, but all of the studies and all of the other versions, her hours are really acclimated. I mean, are really accumulated rather, not acclimated, accumulated.
Definitely.
There's a lot. We dug in deep, but she went even deeper. I wish the title was Pink Polka Dots. She's like, no, you have to earn it. You have to earn the pink polka dots. Oh, look at how that light glow. That's the thing when you can paint something that could come off as being so kitschy or so cliche, and make it such a masterful move so quietly. Can't even. All right, Adele, is there anything else you think we need?
No, just to look at the whole, wow.
Or any ways that you think I could improve my drawing? We
No,
should
I like how your drape,
here now.
your blouse turned out.
So you have an angle by this chair, and then you essentially have a level window up here. So it angles steep, and then as it climbs close to the ceiling, that series of lines levels out. Do you see how I did it?
Yep.
So it's like this is angle, this is the angle of the bar, and then our perspective, our sight line is probably something like it's here. So the level line will probably be about there, and then it'll start to angle up, and maybe even angle like this. Yeah, maybe it even does angle higher, but it's going to pretty close to level out halfway up.
Yeah, just a little bit though.
What you got there?
Well, I think I'm going to stop. I could stay all afternoon, but this has been fun.
Now this is, I laid the pigment in, I think, in those two XY directions, and now it's like I'm trying to nullify any suggestion of a direction. And it's impossible to nullify it completely. That's why it's important to have them go according to the nature of the wall. Look at that little highlight right in the middle. So that's excellent. I think they're 5-pointed stars or 6-pointed stars. Not stars, but petals. Middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's amazing how like we handled this whole area, just trying to make it as smooth as possible. And then these little collections of regular pattern, almost irregular. I can't tell whether it's regular or irregular or it's random, but all of the marks seem to be sort of in a family of marks. And the effect is that it activates, it resolves that area. In fact, when you look up in this corner, it looks like there's some pattern on the wall as well. I mean, the golden wedge is diffused and then crisp lines and then diffused, and then the diffused turns into like light immediately here and then darkened in that corner. And then, you know, where it gets a little bit more mid-tone is where you can see the wallpaper. And to the point where I'm wondering if this wallpaper is actually striped too, but you can't see it because of how quiet it is, you know, tonally.
Yeah.
We were saying before is that, you know, is it worth it to you know, increase that contrast? Because we don't have the like luxury of color. But I think there is enough contrast in the, you know, even in the original painting to really make our triangle pop. It's nice. And it clearly vignettes in this corner. This corner is one of the darker. What's the darkest part of this wedge? And I came in with so we did the angle of the triangle, and then I did, you know, the angle of the radiating lines on the horizontal. This one I'm going vertical, not because it conforms to the geometry, but because it's an alternate layer to lay in the pigment. And I'm going to be diffusing it out anyway. So the fibers have to be able to hold it. And if you just repeat the same direction, you're catching the same fibers. That's a nice vignette. You know, looking at the whole, I really need to, you know, darken my area on the ground. vignette this corner. Yeah, I haven't even addressed, I never addressed the full range of values on the floor as well. At least vignetted in this corner, I should say. The floor behind the umbrella has a light moment, helping separate the shadow from the chair to the wall, but still it's darker. The floorboard and then the gray behind the umbrella. The umbrella needs to pop out more, and I can't really even make the umbrella any lighter, nor can I make the chair any lighter. So the only other answer is to go dark. And these are all things that become apparent once the entire rectangle has been addressed. And these mistakes just like pop out very clearly. Wow. I mean, the effect that you had achieved in terms of the room having an atmosphere is what I was sort of longing for and missing. And now I'm seeing, now I can kind of look at my piece, and maybe I do need to add a, like a crisper, a straight line edge, like a nice clear window frame. Am I gonna what, Kristen?
Will you eat the rest of this if I leave it?
Did you bring it up?
No.
Why didn't you bring it up? I'm starving over here. I probably shouldn't eat on screen. Stacy might never come back. Here's my new. See, check out my new ruler.
Oh, wow.
It's also a paper cutter.
Oh, yeah.
These. Oh. That's probably what I should have done. I should probably just cut it.
Okay, Trevor, I'm ready to show you mine because I probably have to go. Can you see?
So the artifact itself. Here we go. Should have probably cut it with my paper. It feels like a room though.
Yeah. What do you think?
Like, let me stop the share, Adele, so I can actually see it.
Okay.
Wish this was straight. Okay, there it goes.
Nice.
This is straight. We'll go this way. See how spotty it is over here? I think it's just. I could try to shade it down. I don't know if there's much I can do about it because my tortillon only goes so small. But that's got some resolution. I feel like I can walk in the space. I feel like I know where the light's coming from. I'll do another evaluation. All right, stop the share. Let's see. I'm ready. Oh God, let me hide that. Okay. Yeah, what a delight. There's a one light patch by that front left side leg. And I think there's a dark note that exists, that on the legs of the chair, the legs of the table, and then that far side. Great umbrella. The blouse is fantastic. It needs that blue note, and in our piece, the dark note is everything. It's everything. Yeah, the wallpaper's fantastic. You did it. You did it.
Yeah, it looks better on the screen.
Yeah, please can you send me like a real photo of that?
I will. Yeah. Thank you. This was really fun.
Thank you so much. You were on mute. I don't know if you were talking. Were you talking?
I'm on mute?
You're still on mute. I got my volume up.
Can you unmute me? Can you unmute me?
Holy crap. Can you hear? Are you talking now?
Now, yes.
Yes. Okay. I'm sorry. I had needed my headphones.
Oh, okay. So I was talking into your headphones.
What did you say? I'm so sorry.
Nothing. No, not much. No, I was just saying that I needed to go and you didn't respond. So I guess you weren't hearing.
I couldn't hear anything.
That's okay. That's okay.
We finished. We finished though. I can go back on the recording probably because it's in the recording. Oh no.
No, no, no.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, thank you so much. That was great.
Oh, this was really great. I'll send you a picture.
Yeah, please do. Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Bye.